The embassy cafeteria was unusually lively that afternoon. It wasn't just the usual teasing about their secretly obvious marriage. Today, the members had decided to really test her. The chef started it, his grin wickedly playful. Nuna, have you seen the controversies about him online? The headlines, the rumors? You should be jealous. Another chimed in, showing her his phone screen with a smirk. He was linked to half the industry at one point. Did you know? She blinked at the names scrolling before her. Beautiful idols, actresses, whispers of scandals that once shook fan bases. For a moment, the room held its breath, expecting a blush, a flinch, maybe even a crack in her calm. Instead, she smiled, soft, certain. If that was his past, then I should thank them. Because every mistake, every heartbreak, every rumor, all of it prepared this man to be who he is now. The one who can handle my moods, my stubbornness, my teasing, the gentleman who never takes me for granted. She said clearly. Silence. Then laughter and applause. The members weren't mocking this time. They were genuinely floored. He, however, froze, chopsticks halfway to his mouth, eyes fixed on her. She had just said in front of everyone what he had never dared to hope someone could feel about him. No jealousy, no insecurity, just acceptance and gratitude. But she wasn't done. She turned those curious eyes to the table of world famous men around her. But really, I don't understand. She leaned forward, chin in hand, gaze flickering from the leader's dimpled smile to the cook's bunny grin to Park's sharp, intelligent eyes. You are Bangtan Sonyamdan. The world screams your name, yet you sit here joking like schoolboys. You are humble, kind, almost ordinary. How? The leader chuckled, his voice low. Because fame fades, but character doesn't. The cook added, grinning. And because if we act arrogant, he he tilted his head towards her husband. He will drag us into the practice room until we drop. The table erupted, but she only smiled. Then I guess I am surrounded by the rarest kind of men, famous enough to own the world, humble enough to sit and share lunch with me. Rewards made the air softer, heavier. Even the most playful members went quiet for a bit, and across the table, he could do nothing but stare at her simplicity, her sincerity, her refusal to measure his worth in headlines or numbers. That night, back in their apartment, he couldn't hold back anymore when she changed into her soft cotton nightwear, humming carelessly. He came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist, pulling her against his chest. Do you even know what you said today? He murmured against her ear. She tilted her head, smiling. Hmm? That I'm lucky to have you. He tightened his hold, his voice hoarse with restrained emotion. No, that I'm lucky you don't see me the way the world does. You see me as a man, not a name. Do you know how rare that is? Her answer was simple. She turned, cupped his face, and him gently. I only ever wanted the man who puts vermilion in my hair, not the one in headlines. For him, it was the final blow. He hit her like it was both a confession and a vow, slow but desperate. Each touch weighted with gratitude he couldn't yet put into words. Her confusion had been adorable. She thought he had meant ordinary milk, then shyly assumed he was teasing about something much more intimate. But when he turned that misunderstanding into his own advantage, she realized too late. He never lost when it came to her. His lips trailed feather light along her collarbone, slow enough that she shivered at every pause. Each was followed by the soft rasp of his stubble, making her whimper and twist against him. Still thinking I was joking, he whispered, his voice a velvet command. Her reply came broken, barely more than a breath. You are shameless. His hand slid to the small of her back, pressing her closer until no air existed between them. With the patience of a man savoring a victory he already knew was his. He tilted her chin, letting his lips brush hers without claiming them fully. She leaned forward, desperate, only for him to pull back and murmur, "Say it." Her lashes fluttered, her breath quickened. "Say what?" "That you will give me what I asked for." His words were steady, not a plea but a promise. She should have refused, should have scolded him, but his mouth traced downward again, grazing the of her softness with the barest touch, his stubble scratching against the most delicate skin. The sensation broke her defense. Her hands clenched in his hair as a trembling moan escaped her lips. He smiled against her, the kind of smile that meant he knew he had won. Slowly, deliberately, he drank in every sound she made, every shiver that rippled through her. What started as a teasing became worship. What began as his demand turned into her surrender. By the time she gasped his name, her face buried in his shoulder, he had gained exactly what he wanted. Not just her body, not just her sweetness, but the trust that let him take what she had once been too shy to even imagine giving. When it was done, he held her close, away the heat in her cheeks. "See?" he murmured, smug but tender. "Told you, sweeter than any milk." And though she swatted his chest in embarrassment, she was glowing, trembling, and hopelessly his. Sunday morning, when she finally stirred awake, the sunlight had already slipped across the curtains, spilling over her tangled hair. She tried to stretch, but a wince stole across her face. Her body ached in ways she wasn't used to. Before she could shift, his hand pressed gently against her waist, keeping her still. "Don't even try," he murmured, voice low but firm. "You are sore. I warned you last night." Her cheeks flushed crimson at the memory, and she buried her face against his chest as though she could hide. But hiding never worked with him. "You're blushing," he teased, pressing into her messy hair, gently patted on her shoulder. "Stay here, I will get what you need." She pouted. "I'm not broken." "Hmm?" he countered, brushing his thumb across her swollen lower lip. "But you are not walking into your embassy like this either." He disappeared for a while, and when he returned, he carried a tray. Ginger tea steaming, warm milk in a glass, and a small bowl of congee he had called in from the kitchen. She laughed softly. "You treat me like a child." "You tease me like a child." He shot back, but his hand cupped her cheek, so tenderly it broke the bite in his words. He fed her spoon by spoon, scolding when she tried to refuse. Weak bodies react. You need fuel to recover. Don't argue. Later, when she shifted again with a soft hiss of discomfort, he wordlessly reached for the ointment. Sitting her up against the pillows, he massaged it carefully into the sore spot along her thighs and lower back, each touch full of reverence. His stubble brushed against her shoulder as he leaned in, murmuring between, "Teaching you aftercare too? Hmm? You have only studied in your life, nothing beyond books. You better leave this part to me." Her eyes softened, her fingers curling around his wrist. "You make me feel like I don't need to be strong all the time." That stilled him. For all his scolding, for all his teasing control, her words dug deep, reminding him this wasn't about winning or losing. This was about her trusting him enough to be fragile. So he kissed her slow and sure, whispering against her lips, "Then let me be strong for you, just this once, just always." By the time he coaxed her into finishing the tea, she tried to slip off the bed, murmuring, "I should at least freshen up." But the moment her feet touched the floor, her knees wobbled. He caught her before she could stumble, jaw tightening. "Stop," he muttered, lifting her effortlessly into his arms. She giggled, hiding her face in his neck. "You will spoil me like this." "Not spoil," he corrected, pushing the bathroom door open with his shoulder. "Discipline." The shower steamed up quickly, fog curling along the mirror. He sat her down carefully, peeling away the thin fabric she wore. She shivered, but not from the chill. His shoulder hands, usually firm and commanding, moved with surprising delicacy, soap lather sliding across her skin as if she was someone sacred. She tried to take the sponge from him, embarrassed. "I can do it." "No," he said simply, catching her wrist. His gaze softened as he pressed her palm against his chest, letting her feel the steady beat of his heart. "Let me, you have carried enough." And then he began, slow and deliberate, his fingers trailing over her shoulders, her arms, down her back. When he reached the tender spots, the ones she winced at, his touch grew even softer, circular motions easing the soreness away. Her breath came uneven, caught between comfort and desire. You don't miss a spot, do you?" She teased, trying to hide how much she was melting under his care. "Not when it comes to you," he murmured, bending to press against the damp line of her collarbone. His stubble scraped gently against her soft skin, sending shivers racing down her spine. By the time he knelt to wash the length of her legs, she was trembling, not from the weakness but from the sheer intimacy of being seen, cared for, cherished in a way she never imagined. When he finally stood and pulled her under the warm spray, rinsing away the suds, she clung to him like the water itself. "You will make me dependent on you," she whispered, voice fragile against his chest. His lips brushed her temple, his answer steady, low, and absolute. "Then depend. I will hold you every time." After the shower, after the tenderness that left her skin glowing and her cheeks flushed, he insisted her to rest, but she refused, tugging at his sleeve with a pout. "It's Sunday, I don't want to waste it inside." So he gave in, driving her to the hand river. The autumn air was crisp, the breeze lifting strands of her hair. The couples strolled with ice cream cones and skewers in hand. She inhaled deeply, her eyes sparkling like a child's. I want that, she said suddenly, pointing to a stall selling hot dog, syrup-filled pancakes sizzling on a griddle. His brows knitted immediately. No. Her lips parted in disbelief. No? Why? You are still weak. Street food is oil, sugar, dust. Do you want to ruin your stomach? His tone was firm, almost like a commander's order. She crossed her arms, glaring at him with exaggerated cautions. Other husbands buy food when their wives crave it. He leaned closer, his voice a dangerous whisper against her ear. Other wives do not drive their husbands crazy with teasing all week. Her breath hitched, but she refused to back down. Then I will buy it myself. She turned to march toward the stall, only for him to catch her wrist, spin her gently back into his chest. You are mine, he murmured, his eyes glinting. Even your cravings. Instead of greasy pancake, he took her to a quiet cafe by the riverside. He ordered fresh fruit, honey tea, and warm rice cakes, simple, clean, nourishing. When the plates arrived, he spoon-fed her the first bite. She pouted dramatically, but her eyes softened as she chewed. You are impossible. You are reckless, he countered, wiping a stray grain of rice from the corner of her lips with his thumb. The moment stretched. The river shimmered in the afternoon light, but all she saw was his gaze, steady and consuming. For all his scolding, all his restrictions, she realized it wasn't control, it was devotion. He would deny her 100 small things just to prevent her, protect her, keep her safe. Fine, she whispered, leaning into his shoulder. But next week, I will get to choose. His low laugh rumbled in his chest, his lips brushing her hair. We will see. That evening, after their walk along Han River, she leaned against the balcony railing of their apartment, still replaying the chatter of groups by the riverside, couples clinking soju bottles, young girls giggling with flushed cheeks, boys daring each other with shots. It all looked like another world. She turned to him with a half serious, half teasing pout. You know, they say in Korea the moment someone turns 18, they celebrate with alcohol and on New Year's Eve too. He glanced at her while loosening his tie, his expression unreadable. I have finished a post graduation already, she continued, tilting her head. And somehow I feel like an old soul who is missed out on something. He didn't reply. Instead, he walked straight into the washroom, the sound of running water filling the silence. She sat curled against the armrest of the couch, cheeks puffed as she sulked. Everyone knows the taste of soju but me. Even the embassy juniors talk about it like it's some secret code of adulthood. He was wiping his damp hair with the towel, watching her silently. The pout only deepened. And now I feel like I skipped something important. What kind of grown up doesn't even know how it tastes? He tossed the towel aside and came to stand before her, towering, gaze fixed and unreadable. You want to taste it that badly? Her eyes widened. Yes, I mean, not badly, but. But before she could finish, he bent down, sliding one strong arm under her knees and the other behind her back, lifting her effortlessly onto his lap as he sat down. She squealed softly, clinging to his shirt. You will taste it, he said simply, his voice low and steady. But only my way. From the drawer, he pulled out a chilled green bottle. She blinked. You had it here all along? A smirk tugged at his lips. You think I don't prepare for my wife's stubbornness? He poured the clear liquid into a small glass. Without giving it to her, he lifted it to his own mouth, sipped, and leaned closer. She froze as his lips brushed hers, coaxing the warmth of the soju into her mouth. Her eyes fluttered shut, her hands fisting lightly in his shirt. The sharpness of the alcohol hit her tongue, but it was softened by the taste of him blending with the bitter burn. When he pulled back, his breath still mingled with hers. Now, still think you were missing out? She gasped softly. It's bitter. He chuckled, tracing his thumb along her lower lip. Such is bitter, that's why you never drink it alone. With me, it will always be better. But before she could answer, he took another sip and her again, slower this time, letting her chase the flavor. She trembled, caught between innocence and the heat unfurling low in her stomach. By the third sip passed from his lips to hers, her skin was already burning. It wasn't just the alcohol, it was the way he was watching her, the way his smirk made her knees weak even though she was sitting in his lap. She mumbled, cheeks flushed, her voice breaking into a whisper. It's so hot. Before she could answer, she tugged at the edge of her cardigan and let it slide off her shoulder. He raised an eyebrow but said nothing, only leaning back a little to observe. Her hands moved clumsily to the buttons of her top, fumbling until the fabric parted, revealing a flash of scarlet lace. He inhaled sharply, his soldier's discipline cracking for a split second. You are drunk, he muttered, voice rougher now, though his hand instinctively went to steady her wrist. I'm not, she insisted, lips curving into a stubborn little pout. I'm just hot. Layer by layer, she peeled herself free. The top slipping open, cardigan forgotten on the floor. The red framed her like a deliberate temptation. Though he knew she hadn't dressed for this, she was half dizzy, half shameless, her innocence making every moment both bold and fragile. He caught her chin, forcing her hazy eyes to meet his. Do you even know what you are doing right now? Her jiggle was unsteady, but the trust in her gaze was clear. I only know I'm yours. That was the undoing. His jaw clenched, breath uneven as he traced his thumb along the lace edge of her neck, feeling the tremble in her skin. Red, he whispered, voice low as thunder. You wore red today. Do you have any idea what that does to me? She shivered, her blush spreading down her throat, and whispered back, maybe you should show me. And in that moment, he stopped caring whether it was the soju speaking or her own courage. He claimed her mouth again, harder this time, his stubble grazing her soft skin as his hands mapped every inch she had just uncovered. Each layer she shed became another layer of the control he lost. The soju burned in their blood, but the fire between them burned hotter. When they first married, she had been softer, slimmer, untouched by the little changes of marriage and routine. Now she was fuller, richer curves, ripened tenderness. And he realized with a dizzying shock that he was obsessed. obsessed with how her responded to him, how her strained just enough to make him want to rip it away, how her grasp grew sweeter with every flick of his thumb. You have grown, he murmured against her collarbone, half teasing, half in awe. Do you know what you are doing to me? Her hazy eyes fluttered open, confused. I just feel hot and you feel right. He groaned, the sound low, dangerous, reverent. His mouth replaced his hand, lips sealing over her lips, stubble scratching her sensitive skin as she trembled under him. His hunger was deliberate, slow, savoring every reaction. Each gasp, each arc of her back made him sink deeper into obsession. Her fingers clutched his hair, tugging, urging. The alcohol in her blood made her braver, freer, but her trust in him made her surrender utterly. As her laughter melted into sighs, she realized he wasn't teasing anymore. He was claiming her, not with fire but with a devotion so consuming it felt like the only truth in the world. The red straps slided from her shoulders like ribbons unraveling, each layer falling away as if begging him to uncover the truth beneath. She was already hazy from the soju, her skin flushed and hot, her breaths shaky. When she covered her chest with his palms, he felt the silent plea, and it set something ablaze inside him. He had touched her there before, countless times, but tonight it was different. Her fuller than their first marriage, fit perfectly into his hands, as though time had shaped her body. Just to drive him mad, he needed, thumb circling over the taut peaks until her back arched, a broken moan spilling from her lips. Do you ever know what you do to me? He whispered against her ear, his stubble grazing the softness of her skin. She shivered, half from the chill, half from the heat spiraling low in her belly. Her answer was a sigh, then a whimper, as he trailed down to the swell of her, sucking gently before biting just enough to make her gasp. His obsession only grew. Every reaction of hers made him hungrier, pulling him deeper. He wasn't just touching her, he was claiming, branding her with lips and hands. When the wave finally broke, when her body gave into his, he followed with a guttural moan, collapsing against her, their hearts racing in unison. Silence lingered, heavy yet tender, her cheeks rested against his chest, his fingers still tracing lazy circles over her swollen, as if he couldn't let go. And that's when it hit him. He had traveled the world as an artist, stages in Paris, neon in Tokyo, lights in New York, screaming fans in London. He had met people of every nationality, shaken hands with dignitaries, smiled for strangers who worshipped him, yet never her land, and she was his wife. And strangely, beautifully, she was more home than any country, any city, any hotel suite he had ever stayed in. She wasn't perfect, not a homemaker, not one for household chores. She burned rice, forgot laundry, and could barely organize her own closet, but none of that mattered. Her nature, her laughter, her values, her unshaken simplicity. That was what mattered. She didn't bow to his frame. She didn't treat him like a god. She treated him like a man, teased him like a friend, held him like a lover, and forgave him like a wife. He smiled against her hair, pulling her closer, whispering into the darkness, "You are my home, the one I never knew I was missing." Her sleepy murmur brushed against his skin. Even if I can't cook, he chuckled her temple, his thumb absent-mindedly brushing over her again. His obsession still alive, still aching. Especially then, I don't need a cook. I need you. When she stirred hours later, her body ached everywhere. Her lips dry, her throat raspy. She blinked, finding him already awake, propped on one elbow, watching her with a soft smile. Morning trouble, he murmured, brushing damp strand of hair from her face. Her cheeks heated, remembering the haze of the night. I think I overdid it, she admitted, her face small. He chuckled, low and warm, pressing up to her temple. You nearly killed me, but I wouldn't trade it for anything. Carefully, he slid from bed and returned with a glass of water, helping her sit up. She drank slowly, his hand steadying hers, then winced when the soreness in her body reminded her of their madness. That's when he pulled out a little box, ointment and pain relief patches. He dabbed the cream along her hips, shoulders, even her thighs, his fingers gentle, reverent, making her sigh. You're obsessed with me, she teased, still half flustered. Of course I am, he admitted simply, eyes glinting with honesty. Look at you. How could I not be? Even made breakfast. Nothing fancy, just warm toast and fruit, feeding her bites while scolding her for pouting about missing street food. His protectiveness wrapped around her like a second skin, his teasing balanced with tenderness. And all through it, she couldn't shake the thought he wasn't just her husband, he became her everything.